Hi, my name is Jamie Sanchez. This is my presentation for diversity and social emotional development. The first question that I'm going to discuss is to describe what my ideal classroom would be in terms of classroom management and positive support system. So to me, the ideal classroom has to have a good management plan in place. You cannot establish any type of learning without establishing first what the expectation is for working, behavior, movements, going to the bathroom, transition from one class to another, coming into the room, leaving the room, all of those things. There has to be a plan in place. There has to be set expectations. Now, those expectations have to be realistic and they have to be reasonable. You can't expect a classroom of first graders to follow expectations that are appropriate for a fifth grade class. I have recently created a set of posters as examples for a first grade level, so I will pull those up and show you what that would be. So, for example, in these ones, the classroom rules would be posted, and they're 3 to 4 words a piece. It's simple, it has a visual along with it, and it helps remind kids, the students, what the rules or expectation is in the classroom. Now, I wouldn't use this in a fifth grade room. I would use something for the students that would be more appropriate and descriptive to their age level. Okay, going back. Another thing for an ideal classroom would be having a positive support, like behavior system. So in order to do that, again, you have to establish your expectations. You can have students have a class meeting, and in that class meeting, you establish what the expectations are. Students can provide feedback of what those expectations look and sound like, what they feel like are expectations they should be accountable for, and when targeting those behaviors or expectations, you want to provide reinforcement. So when initially establishing these, give them scenarios, have them pair up and act out certain things, and then observe. As you're observing them, you can give like the positive reinforcement, like, yes, that's exactly what I want you to do. That's exactly what the expectation is, or that's exactly what we are not supposed to do. So great example of what not to do. And this reinforces to them in a positive way what is a good thing to do and what is not a good thing to do. And it just reinforces that positive behavior. They want that positive praise. They want to know they're doing what's expected and what's right in and out of class. And so by starting out, creating a safe place where they can have a voice, they can express their individuality and what they think and feel should be appropriate for them, and ways to interact and behave and move in school, it will encourage them to follow through. You have to be consistent. As an educator, you have to be consistent with what your expectations are. You can't change it from day to day. You can't change when you feel like or do not feel like enforcing it, because the students will see that and they will learn that, well, I don't always have to follow expectations because there's not always a consequence, or there's not always that positive praise when I do something good, so I do it. Some examples of ways to establish like a positive support, positive behavior system is to create schedules. Schedules are so important for kids, and they, especially when they're younger, they need to see it. Students with learning disabilities, they need to see their schedule. And so here are some examples of visual schedules, or examples of the classroom rules, and addition to the example I showed you previously. Some more information about what an ideal classroom would look like is to reinforce those positive behaviors, you want to have a reward system. Now, you could have a reward system for individuals like tickets or tokens or something, and when you see students doing the expected behavior, or if the expectation is that they are working quietly and you see that they are working and they are giving effort, then you can give them that ticket. And at the end of the week, maybe the tickets can be cashed in for a prize out of the treasure box. Classroom-wide, you can give out, you can have a marble jar, a pom-pom jar, a button jar, something like that. I have some examples here. And you can use those to reinforce positive class-wide behavior. And when students see that it takes the entire class to earn those things, to get that big reward, they don't generally want to fail their peers, and they're not going to do things that will cause their class to not get that big reward. When you are done establishing the expectations for the classroom and for the hallway and the bathroom, dismissal, when you come in, arrive at school, going to specials, just different things like that, you may want to create a contract. Students who sign contracts that sign their name after they have had a voice and they say, this is what we feel like we should be doing at school, here's what we feel is appropriate, here's what we feel is not okay. If you put that in a contract form and you have them sign it, they are accountable for their words, they are accountable for their actions, and they are more likely to hold their end of the agreement to follow the classroom plan. If you encounter any kind of discourse, discourse is like that something's not working. The first thing you should do is a self-evaluation. And you can ask questions like, am I doing my part to reinforce the desired behaviors? Am I following through with consequences for negative behaviors? Am I entering power struggles? If I have a difficult or challenging student that likes to instigate arguments, am I battling that with them, or is there a better way that I can handle that? Are my expectations reasonable and realistic, or do I need to reevaluate that and maybe make adjustments? And another way is, have I offered choices when appropriate? So for students who may have a hard time with focusing, am I offering frequent breaks? Am I offering incentives, like maybe if you complete this reading activity, you can draw. Or once you have done this, you can do that kind of thing. Would you like to work on your writing piece on the computer, or would you like to write it with a pencil? Just different things like that. Find things that are going to make the activity, the lesson, a more positive experience for students who may be struggling. Another thing to do is to observe the circumstances surrounding those undesired behaviors. So before, during, and after. What was happening before this behavior exhibited? What happened during the behavior? What was the behavior? Was there aggression? Was there arguing? Was there crying? And then what happened after? What was the schedule? What was coming up? What was the time of day? Just taking notes and monitoring and tracking that can help to maybe figure out what is causing the difficulty in that time or that period. And another thing to do is to make alternate schedule options. So like I had kind of said before, offer students choices. You don't want to negotiate with them like, come on, please just do this and I'll give you whatever you want kind of thing. or give them the upper hand in it, but you can offer them things like if you work on your math for 15 minutes, you can have a 5-minute computer break. Or would you like to do your math first or your writing first? If they flip-flop their schedule and it's independent work, if that's how you can get them to do it, maybe if they do the more preferred activity, they'll go back and do the less preferred activity. Or you could offer them a different location. Would you like to do your work at your desk or at the beanbag? Just offering different solutions may get you the more positive reaction that you are desiring. Social difficulties can often be difficult to address because they are so varied, and each student is different, each student is diverse, and each student is an individual. Something that we do know is that students with learning disabilities often struggle with their social interactions and can be displayed by being less initiative in their discussions. It's more they respond to what others have to say and they don't offer their own input. They can become agitated or frustrated. You can see crying, you can see aggression, both physical aggression, verbal aggression, outbursts, crying, making up stories to get other people in trouble. Ways to prevent the aggression in the classroom is to make it clear what aggressive behaviors are, make a no tolerance rule for these behaviors, establish positive relationships to help reduce those behaviors from the beginning, and to teach students strategies on how to effectively resolve their conflicts. That brings me to the next part, which is an evidence-based practice strategy that I would use, which I chose FAST. FAST stands for freeze and think, what is the problem? A is for alternatives, what are my possible solutions? S is a solution evaluation, decide which one is the best solution and is it safe and fair? And T is try it, slowly and carefully, does it work? So when you use FAST, students are expected to stop and think about their choices. They have to come up with an alternative solution and decide which solution is going to get me the best results. What are the possible outcomes? What are the positive consequences of that solution? And what are the negative consequences of that solution? And then once they've decided on one, they try it. Students with disabilities or that are at frustration level may struggle with this. They may need some guidance to go through the steps. But overall, it is very beneficial because it allows students to learn to think of alternate solutions and reduces those negative, undesired behaviors. My instructional environment procedures would be, there's a six-step procedure, six-step arrangement that includes a large group where you give support, you give general instruction to the entire class. This is appropriate for all levels, all students. Then you go into small groups, which are more in-depth practice of the same instruction broken down in smaller groups of students. You want to group them by level of ability. So if there's a few students you have that tend to struggle a little more with math, you might place them in the same small group for math. You have one-to-one where you take a student and you work one-on-one with them. You give them an opportunity to ask questions. You may use manipulatives or different strategies to come up with solutions if they're struggling to understand the concept. Cooperative learning is like teaming up and having kids play a game where your whole team has to come up with the answer to get the point. Peer teaching, you might have students pair up and coach each other to show that they can tell someone else how to do it, and that helps with comprehension and understanding. And the last part is class-wide peer tutoring, which is where it's generally used for reading, and two students are paired up, and the reading level is the lower level reader of the pair, and they practice with main idea and comprehension. That has been my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it.